On the Newsmaker Hotline, Philip Mudd, former CIA director and former senior intelligence advisor to the FBI, currently the senior research fellow for the New American Foundation.
Mr. Mudd, thanks for joining us. I wanted to ask you about the latest in Boston. Now, we have reports, and earlier this morning we were joined by Aaron Katersky from ABC News. He reported to us about these three new students that were arrested. These were friends of the bombing suspects. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Mudd is not on the line with us. Well, we'll just let you know what Aaron Katersky said then while you're listening here. We will be joined by Philip Mudd in just a moment. Yes, there were three more arrests made. These were student friends of Tamerlan and Dzhokhar Zainarev. In fact, they shared dorm rooms or dorm facilities with them, and it was really chilling what Aaron Katersky reported to us. In fact, there were communications and text messages between the suspects after their photos were released. And now with these new students that were arrested, how Philip Mudd joins us now, former CIA official and former senior intelligence advisor to the FBI. How much danger or how much trouble are these guys in for seemingly covering up the evidence after the bombing?
I think they're in a lot of trouble. The first question I'd ask, I think the answer is going to be no, but you've got to ask whether we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they didn't know anything beforehand. Again, I doubt they did, but you can't just assume that what they say at the outset is true. That's one of the reasons I think the laptop will be critical. You'll be able to determine whether there are communications among these guys beforehand, but they're in trouble regardless.
But now the latest report that just came in fact, has just hit the AP wires about 30 minutes ago. It turns out that one of the students arrested in the Boston bombing case was allowed to return to the U.S. despite not having a valid student visa. And, you know, we've got the immigration debate going on right now, Philip Mudd, and it sounds like both sides of the immigration issue are saying that the Boston bombing is an example why their side is correct in this issue. I mean, how do you... there's this overwhelming, uneasy feeling amongst the American people that there are bad guys amongst us. They shouldn't even be here, and we have no idea who they are or where they are. And even when we get warned, like in this case from the government of Russia, we don't do anything about it.
I don't think that's true. First of all, you've got a lot of students, foreign students in this country overstaying their visas. This was a common problem we had in Bureau investigations involving foreign students. But if you want to extrapolate from two kids who commit an act of murder that has elements of terrorism, but to my mind it's as much cold-blooded murder, and make decisions about immigration policy, that to me makes no sense. This is an episode that is unique in a way. It's not emblematic of what happens across America every day, and I don't think you can make a policy.
Well, wait a second, though. You sounds like you're shying away from calling this a terrorist act. I mean, they did this for a political purpose and for a religious purpose, and they were targeting innocent civilians, and they tried to create as much havoc as possible. How is that not a terrorist act?
It is a terrorist act. I mean, if you both in terms of broadly how an American would view this, and also according to the U.S. government technical definition of terrorism, all I would say is compared to what we faced when I was at the threat table 12 years ago in the aftermath of 9/11, where you had high-end, ideologically driven people who were not as emotional as these guys and put together long-term operational plans. These guys are more emotional. They're not as ideological. They don't really know what ideology they represent. So we've come a long way in this war.
All right, let me ask you. You served at the CIA. I mean, your resume is amazing. Served at the CIA. You did some time at the White House. And then you became the deputy director in 2005 of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's National Security Branch. You were very much on the ground floor as the intelligence community tried to find ways to end what they call stovepiping. And that is that, you know, one institution has knowledge that it doesn't share with the other, and that creates a problem sometimes. But many people are looking at what happened in this particular case and saying stovepiping is still present. What's your assessment of it?
My assessment is you got to be kidding me. I mean, the difference in the intelligence community from 12 years ago to today is night and day. The problem Americans are going to face in this case, and this is almost unique. If you look at cases like the underwear bomber or the killer in Texas a few years ago, there were problems that had to be resolved. The problem in this case is Americans like to put stuff in a box and put a bow on it and say we solved it. In this case, if you want to find two brothers who get over-the-counter fireworks and build a bomb and put it in a site that's accessible to every American in this country, that is the Boston Marathon, and you want to find a solution, it's not going to happen. Americans want an easy answer. There is none.
So you're saying that even the best intelligence can't get at some problems, especially the problem of the so-called lone wolf or a small group of people.
That's in an open society. That's correct. And if the bar is that some foreign service says we're uncomfortable with these guys, Let me tell you something. There's 330 million people in this country, and there's a lot of nuts here with guns. So taking this case in isolation and saying it represents some sort of intelligence problem in America or some flaw in our process in terms of information sharing, that's, to me, let me be clear, this is people who want a solution in a world where there aren't always solutions. Sometimes bad stuff happens.
All right, and well, now given that, it sounds like you're sort of chiming in with what we heard from former Mayor Bloomberg of New York City, who basically said we're going to have to rethink some of our concepts of our open society so we can either prevent these things from happening or at the very least have more cameras involved and more investigative tools to the authorities' disposal so they can get to the bottom of these things quicker.
Well, I agree in terms of cameras. I think Americans' initial response is going to be, hey, more cameras, and then a few months down the road they're going to say, hey, what does that mean about an open society and right to privacy? I mean, my view would be when you walk down the street, you don't have much right to privacy. But if you go much further than that, my question would be, what do you want to do? Do you want to not have foreign students in this country? My view would be this country is an engine for global economics. We want to be wired in to China, to India, to Russia, and trying to provide a perfect security state that then risks America's economic primacy is a huge mistake. Cameras are fine, but changing America ain't.
All right, Philip Mudd, these are definitely the topics that Americans will be talking about. They're talking about them now, and we're going to continue talking about it as these the investigations to the bombing come forward and we get more facts. So we appreciate you lending your voice to it.
Sure, thank you.
Philip Mudd, former CIA official and former senior intelligence advisor to the FBI.
Get that guy to come back. He was great.
Yeah, currently senior research fellow, by the way, at the New America Foundation, if you want to look him